But I was just doing what I thought everybody else was doing. I was living like I thought everyone else was living. I don't know how people have kids and have white walls like that.
You have white couches.
I know. Have you seen my couch?
Not up close and personal today.
It needs to be washed.
For everybody. Because would you walk into my house and think it's a minimalist house?
No, I wouldn't.
But do you think I'm a hoarder? Was that thunder or your husband?
That was Brian falling off the couch. I think that was Brian falling off. If you're a busy mom who can navigate the World Wide Web like a pro, but also remembers a time of mixtapes, Oregon trails, and phones that plugged into the wall, then you probably need a place to relax, unwind, and get real about life. This, friend, is that place. Join Carrie and Mary Beth as they spill all the tea on faith, family, and motherhood. Together, they unpack the hard issues of life with a little humor and a whole lot of faith. This is the Spilling the Tea podcast with Carrie and Mary Beth. It's tea time, friends. Let's dive in. Hey, friends. It's time to spill some tea on minimalism. Is it actually a thing? And what do we do with this, like, very trendy thing that seems a little bit hard to achieve?
And maybe a little controversial.
You think so?
Maybe. Welcome to episode 3.
So when you hear about minimalism, what do you think, like, what comes to mind? What are your first thoughts?
So let me ask you this.
Uh-oh. She's answering my question with a question. This cannot be good.
Pre the Minimal Mom and the At What Cost blog?
Yeah.
Or post those two things?
I would like both.
Okay.
Can I have both?
Sure. So pre the Minimal Mom, shout out to our friend Dawn and the At What Cost blog, I would have thought nothingness.
Oh, okay.
Like white walls, black furniture that's very square.
Oh yeah, mid-century modern.
Yes, which I do love mid-century modern.
Oh, I do too, but it's like everything has to come from
sparse.
article.
Yes.
Yeah.
So post our two friends living within your brain's bandwidth.
Oh, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I think prior to our discovering minimalism, well, let me give you a little bit of the backstory first. I probably should share some of that for our friends who maybe don't know. So about, 5 years ago now, I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
We had a dramatic shift in our lifestyle. It actually started around the topic of stewardship and then moved into coveting, which I
remember that study.
Do you?
I do.
Did you attend that study?
I did.
Oh, I was trying to remember who was in that study. But yeah, it changed.
Was that thunder or your husband?
That was Brian falling off the couch. I think that was Brian falling off the couch. He's laying on, it's Sunday afternoon. We'll leave this in. It's Sunday afternoon when we're filming this, and everybody in my house is sleeping because we Sabbath on Sundays. And I think he just fell off the couch. Okay.
Bless him. I was like, man, the thunder is really rolling.
Something's rolling. Oh, okay. But anyway, I did not think I had a problem with coveting. I did discover I had a serious issue with contentment. And so through a minimalism video on laundry, which I was looking for a laundry system, found this video from the Minimal Mom and was like, I'm not ready to get rid of all my stuff.
But maybe a little.
Maybe a little of it would be good. Fast forward 5 years, we got rid of 85% of our stuff. And I know that because I actually did the math. Here, we're gonna spill some tea on this minimalism stuff because there are a lot of people, I think, who just throw that number out. They're like, we got rid of 90% of our stuff. I'm like, did you know? Like,
because is your house now white with black stick furniture?
Yeah, some of them are.
Yeah.
I have seen that. I have seen that kind of, we'll get to that. But I actually did the math. I looked at the square footage of our home, how much of our home was covered in stuff, how high our bedroom had a path around it, where we had just...
We call that here a pig trail.
A pig trail. It was 100% a pig trail. And we had 2 storage units. We had a 10 by 10 and a 10 by 20. We were moving out of, and this is what really hit home for me.
That's 300 square foot of stuff.
And it was stacked to the ceiling.
No, I can't do that math in there.
The cubic, you can't figure out the cubic feet of our cubic feet of our crap. Because, spoiler alert, maybe 5% out of both of those units actually came to live at our house.
Wow. How much of it was garbage?
At least 75%.
Like true garbage, or like...
I mean, it wasn't like garbage bags. Like, it wasn't like we were, we didn't need a TLC
but like
show.
Stuff that was just
useless.
Things,
so the things that we got rid of out of our storage unit, my husband had been working for a company for 15 years, 13 years at that point, and they went out of business. So he had 13 years full of stuff in his office that he had collected that nobody wanted anymore. They didn't need any of it. He wasn't like taking stuff he didn't need to from work, but you gather things. Yes, textbooks.
Stuff you got at conferences.
Yes.
Okay.
Little, we had so much stuff with the company logo on it where they had given out koozies and pens and thermoses and all the things that he had. He probably had 10 copy paper box size boxes of stuff that just went to a storage unit because
you didn't know what else to
do with it. And things from college, we had a whole bin of VCR tapes.
I think my mom still has them.
You cannot do anything with them. Do you know how much a VCR player is right now on Amazon?
I have no idea.
$300.
Get out of town.
I do not want to watch Bambi on VCR that bad.
But and they cost a lot to convert too.
It does. Anyway.
We're getting off track. Sorry.
I know, we can get I could talk about like this stuff, but everything was stuff that we had lived without for a very long time. And
I heard you say college, so did y'all fall into the category like I did, where they're like, you'll use these textbooks in your professional career?
Yeah.
I've never used one of my textbooks in my professional career.
Brian did.
Oh yeah,
for a while. His field, he did use some of that for a little while. I used a little bit of it initially. But for the most part, I would say 95% of the stuff that I had that I walked out of my college career with, I never picked back up again. And I was just storing it because what do I do with it? We had toys. We were moving from a much smaller house. We were moving from a house that was less than half the square footage of the house that we live in now. And we had so much stuff. Toys. And I always thought I'd be the person who would rotate toys. I was not the person who rotated toys. I was the person who put it in the closet, forgot that it existed.
And then bought another one?
And then bought more. It just, clothes that our kids, we had so much stuff. And so I did actually write out the word problem. And
Mary Beth has 9 boxes of stuff.
It was. It was very sobering to see with fresh eyes how much we had accumulated. And I didn't really understand how much it was impacting my faith, my relationships with my family, my kids, my outlook, my work, just my general level of stress. I thought I needed a new laundry system because I was tired of moving clothes off of the couch onto the bed and from the bed to the couch. I thought I needed a solution for that, but that was the tip of the iceberg. It was so much deeper than that.
So do you think if somebody walked into your home today, other than me, because I'm used to your house, they would think you're a minimalist?
No.
Why?
I don't think so. I was a little bit afraid of that. I was afraid that people would walk into our home and they'd be like, wow, it's really sterile.
So you saw it as a stigma?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that it had to look a certain way and that people would think oh, she doesn't have anything on top of the shelf, or she doesn't have anything on these shelves, or she doesn't even have a shelf, or for a long time we didn't even have a lot of stuff on our walls. I was afraid it would feel kind of sterile. But now I think we've found the right balance of things. Like we have some stuff on our walls. Now I was very particular in what I chose and how I chose. I think we were talking about, I just put these frames up of our kids' school pictures, and we were talking about like the matting, like maybe putting another color behind it. But I was actually very intentional in picking something that was similar to our wall color so that it wasn't drawing my attention to all of those things. I found that the visual clutter of my space can really increase my stress.
That's
but
so
I wouldn't
powerful
say,
because
yeah.
as soon as you were saying the stuff, the clutter, I thought about my mom. So Bev, your turn to stop watching. In her house, above her kitchen cabinets, it's just full of things.
Does she have like the bottles with the fruit and the you remember those were so popular in the early 2000s?
Her thing is chickens. And blue and white, that pattern of stuff.
Yeah.
And I love her. But since coming on to minimalism, I realize how much just seeing that visual there is so anxiety starting for me.
Yeah.
I can't have all of that anymore. But I didn't realize it.
I didn't either. And it did take some time for me to adjust. I have this cabinet in our kitchen area, like just kind of off here. And I used to have a big plant. It was a fake plant. I used to have this big plant and this very pretty planter. And it just kind of rounded it all out. I think I saw it on Pinterest and I was like, oh, I could make something out of that. And I put all of that up there. And for a long time, I was like, oh, this is really cute. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what
I made
this
it look
looks
homey.
like. Yeah, as like finished. And it was such a pain in the butt to dust.
Ooh.
I was frustrated with it. We would stick other things up there too because there was already something there. Right. It was like this magnet.
So then it was hidden.
Yeah. And when I took that down, I remember walking into our living room and thinking, this is not right. This does not feel right. I know. It's going to be okay. Get down, Gunner. If you're listening on the audio, what you can't see is that my dog is ready for a nap. He's ready for a nap. But no, I remember walking in and just thinking, this is not right. This feels cold and this feels sterile. But I had a lot of encouragement to just stay the course and let it sink in and give it like a good week or so and see how it feels. And I actually did try to put that plant back up on top of there. I waited like 2 weeks. Oh yeah, I wasn't.
It was in your time.
I was very hesitant in the beginning to actually get rid of stuff. We kind of, it's not a popular word to use anymore, but we quarantined quite a few things. I know, that was the word. That was the beginning of it. It's still.
But you, in fairness, you started minimizing, excuse me.
Yeah, in 2019.
Prior to.
Yeah, and I'm really thankful for that. I think it changed a lot of our reaction to being in our home so long. And but I did keep that plant and I put it back up there after a few weeks. And I walked into the room and I had the same response. I was like, oh, this feels wrong. This is not right. This isn't. Oh, I don't like this. This is too much. And I'll even still, when we'll put like Christmas decorations up, I love to decorate for Christmas. I love to have all the stuff up.
But on December the 26th.
Yeah, I took everything down. And I wouldn't have been like that. I would have waited. It would have taken me a lot longer. But now we downsized a lot of our Christmas decorations. Everything has gone. I'm curious though, if like walking into my house, do you think that our house looks like a minimalist lives here?
No. It just looks cozy.
Okay.
And having known how your little house, we'll call it, looked, I think you hid the clutter well there.
Yes, I did.
So I don't know that...
Closets, cabinets, underbeds, attics, garages.
So I don't know that I'd have been like, oh my gosh, is this lady a hoarder?
Oh, our realtor did.
Well,
yeah, that was kind of like the foundational work is we wanted to move. We were And we were in a smaller house. We had just adopted our 3 boys. It felt like the walls were closing in on us. We were playing nap time shuffle because there's nowhere to go, and our youngest would need a nap and our older 2 would not be napping, and it was loud, and we had all this stuff. Everything was hand-me-down from somebody, so everything had meaning, and we decided we needed to move. We needed a bigger home. We needed a better school district, so we were going to move. And our realtor came and did a walkthrough, and he said,
"You got to get rid of some stuff."
He didn't even say some. He said, "You need to get rid of half of what you have in this house."
Wow.
And I was so offended.
Right. Because you
I
didn't
was
really
like-
think you had that much stuff, right?
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What do we need to get rid of?
Where am I going to get what? Yeah.
That was how we ended up with the first storage unit. We emptied
to prepare to sell.
Yeah, we emptied all this stuff out of our house, and we were doing some things around our house. And it's really funny when I look back on it now. One of the things Brian said, once we got everything staged, Brian said, "It feels so good in here. Maybe we should stay."
Oh, and you're like, no.
And I was like, no, we will not be doing that. No, we will not be doing that. But
So at that point, did you want your stuff back?
Yeah, I was thinking like, okay, we're going to get a bigger house. We're going to have more room. I have all of this stuff. I'll find a place for it in our home. And some of those things I did. There were some pieces that, I found a home for, and it was useful, and we have kept it. But I have not added nearly as much as I thought that I would need to add to make our home kind of feel very, very balanced.
So I'll say we kind of had a different path into it, and I actually don't know that I would call myself a minimalist.
Yeah.
I have minimized.
Yeah.
But a lot of her stuff came to my house because
What did you end up with?
all the baby stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's like, I don't even remember. I couldn't, if you asked me for a list of stuff that I got rid of, I couldn't tell you.
But like, I know specifically like the bouncer.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, probably a laundry list of other things.
Oh, I loved that bouncer.
It was a cute bouncer.
It was so
But
cute.
anyway, it has been passed on. I think
Yeah.
it's at church now, right?
Yeah, I think it is at our church.
And so I don't think I like realized how much stuff we had until my son was born.
I remember when you did your bathroom cabinet. That was one of the first areas that you did.
Yes.
I think I was kind of decluttering a lot, and I kept talking about it. And
Yes, and I'm like,
you were like, I think I'm going to do my bathroom cabinet. And I remember you sending me before and after pictures.
Yes. I wish I
And
probably
me
still
saying,
have them.
can I put this on YouTube? Because I
it was
just started my
bad.
channel then too. And
I mean, it was, we have a vanity as big as this kitchen table probably.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, not as deep.
no, but it's a pretty
wide.
big, yeah.
And it was slam full from
In a
the
bathroom.
bottom to the top.
Well, and that was like your guest bathroom
Yes.
too, wasn't it? It wasn't even
wasn't
like
even
your
my
bathroom that
bathroom.
you guys are using on
Yeah.
a daily basis. Yeah.
And it was just because I'm a pseudo nice person, I don't throw things away that people give me.
I love the way you characterized yourself as a pseudo nice person with scare quotes. Like, people think I'm nice, but I'm not actually nice.
Sometimes I'm not so nice.
No,
but,
I do understand what you mean, though, that you take things. People are like, do
Yes.
you want this?
And I feel
you
bad
don't
being
want to say
like,
no.
no. And so, like, for example,
Do you do that now?
No.
Okay.
Well, not often. But I mean, I have a lot of allergies and sensitive skin and that kind of stuff, and people would always give me like smelly lotions and bath products, and I can't use it.
Yeah.
I cannot use it. But in my head, I'm like, oh, well, they gave it to me and it was a gift and they put thought into it.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And I just kept it. And you were right. You were talking about it a lot, and I was like, well, maybe I can at least go through this cabinet and make it better.
Yeah. I think that's really where I didn't realize until I got through the laundry. That was the problem I was trying to solve. And I thought, okay, this was really helpful for the laundry, but I'm not going to have to worry. Like, this is my pain point. Once I get this under control, everything's going to be
Everything else will
fine.
fall in place.
And then I did that, and I was like, what else can I get rid of?
Yeah.
This feels
It kind
great.
of gives you that like surge.
Yes. And then I remember you did your kitchen, and you had a ton of stuff on top of your cabinets
did.
too.
It's true.
And I just remember.
And now the one side
you
has
doing
stuff,
that.
but it only has 3, 4, 5 things on it.
Yeah.
But they're all things of meaning.
Yeah. It's very intentional.
It is.
I don't think I was intentional in in like decorating my home and, you know, trying to figure out what actually makes this a home. I was trying so hard to make this a blend of my husband and I and our interests, and we want our home to reflect who we are. And it did reflect who we were. We were like crazy, strung out people with 3 kids that, I mean, we took
that had more stuff than they
dive.
could ever need.
Yeah.
Ever.
And we were suffering. We had an abundance of stuff, but
which we're grateful for.
Yes, I was incredibly grateful that people had provided for us, and, you know, the things in our home had meaning, but a lot of those things, the meaning behind it, and that just because this is somebody else's that, you know, I appreciate or I care about them, I really had to learn that was not a reflection of my relationship with them.
Absolutely. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned from listening to all the minimalists that I have, is that it's just stuff.
Yeah.
And if I hold on to my grandma's, I'm just going to say china dish.
Yeah.
It's not my grandma.
No, but you know, I feel like China comes up when I talk with anybody about minimalism.
Yes, we've talked about it multiple times.
It was so important to them.
It was.
So important to that generation. And I think our generation, and especially the generations coming behind us, are like, what do I do with
China?
This? I'm not going to let my kids eat off
You
of
have
this.
a formal china? Like you
Yeah.
Do you eat on it?
Well, people don't have formal dining rooms anymore.
We don't at my house, but my house is a little smaller.
Well, but I think that's just, we live a different way than what the generation before us does. But we can get tied up in that of putting the value of our relationship on that item. And I think for me, a lot of minimalism has been detaching, untangling those relationships and items and things. And it's not just about the relationship with someone else, but even the idea that I spent money on this, or that it's useful, or that I might need it in the future. Just trying to really get that separation between those thoughts and the item.
It makes it really hard too when a person is passed and you have gotten those items. You feel like there's a responsibility to hold on to something that was so meaningful to them that unfortunately may not be as meaningful to you.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, when my grandfather passed, I got his army bag. It was dry rotting, but in the moment, I thought I needed it.
Yeah.
6 months later, when we unearthed it, when we decluttered our garage, I was like, oh, why did I keep this? It's deteriorating. I didn't know him in that time. I knew him as a serviceman, but not when he was in the military.
Yeah.
And I let it go.
Well, and I think that's okay. I think that's one of the very much the benefits that we have found in minimalism, is that our focus is not on our stuff. And I think that's a misconception of minimalism. I think that there's a lot of focus on the stuff, having the least amount of stuff, having all the right stuff, not having duplicates of things. Like, there's all this focus on the stuff. And yes, to a certain extent, there is a focus on the stuff. You are focusing less, or on having less. And in order to do that, you do have to put some time and attention into your actual personal belongings.
But it doesn't mean you can't have stuff.
Right. But it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. It's not, the focus is really now about the things that have been added to our lives. But it doesn't come in the form of like material items.
Right. It opens up more opportunities. That's the other probably like big selling point I have, is because I have less stuff to manage, I have more time with my family.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about spending all day Saturday cleaning my house.
Yeah.
I can now do things. Like yesterday morning, I got to run errands while my son and my husband went to a baseball clinic.
Yeah.
And it was okay. And all I had to do as far as cleaning my house was vacuum. And it was great. It was awesome.
Well, and I think that's what we had home group last night, and I had made a bunch of stuff. And then we also had a couple that had surgery that we were making lunches for. And when we left last night, my kitchen was trashed. I mean, it was, every surface was covered.
Yeah, because you were doing lots.
Yes, but it cleaned up so easily. All the dishes fit in the dishwasher. I ran the dishwasher. They're totally clean. I don't have any other dishes left out that I need to deal with. The countertops are cleared off. And it went from trashed to clean and clutter-free in like an hour. And that would have never happened. I actually would have probably not even
You'd have probably
had
left it.
I wouldn't have even had the capacity to cook all of those things and make all of those things for someone else, because I would have been anticipating the mess and how hard it was to clean up and how I was going to end up doing dishes for days. And I would not have extended that hospitality because I was too busy managing my stuff. And I think that's the other kind of misconception, is that just getting rid of our stuff frees up time for ourselves, but that's it's not just for ourselves. And I think too, as long as we're talking about misconceptions, I think people are also afraid to devote time to decluttering, especially working moms. I was just talking about this with Dawn, and people are afraid they're not going to have enough time for their kids, that when their kids are, when they are not working and the kids are not in school, you should be spending all of your time with your kids. And I agree. Spend time with your kids.
But coming.
Big but. But time decluttering is sort of like Bible study time for me.
Oh, okay.
It's a time warp. Like, you get the time back. Yeah. I've never stopped what I was doing, done a little bit of Bible study, and then not gotten other things done.
True.
Like, it always works out. I have had times where I have just all day on a Saturday, I'm like, I am going to just go to town on this room and totally declutter it, totally get all this stuff out of here. And I have had so much more time with my kids after doing that, because I'm not worrying about any of that stuff. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not trying to shuffle things around. I felt like a grade A tote shuffler. Like, I could just move things from here to there. If it was time for people to come over, all of that stuff had to go squeeze into that closet. And I hope they don't
laundry
open.
Basket.
I have got bins that I decluttered. Some of them were in those storage units. You could see the layer of things. Like, I had this bin, and I had put some stuff in it that was on the counter, and then I tucked it away somewhere.
And then
I'd
a couple
taken
weeks
it
later,
back
you'd
out,
add something else.
and I put some more things in there. I had a bin in a storage unit. This is the kind of stuff I was paying to store. I had a bin in a storage unit that had a coupon. It had more than this, but it had a coupon from Belk from 2007.
And you didn't start the storage unit until 2016. Because you moved in this house the year my son was born.
Yeah. We did not start cleaning out our storage unit when I found it until 2021.
I think that coupon's expired.
I paid
to store
a coupon for a store that I don't even shop at on the regular for however many years that is. It's so many years I can't even count them. I'd have to take my shoes off to count them, and I'm not going to do that.
I think, though, like, that's the other thing, is a lot of people think it's like a switch that you're going to go minimalist, and it's not. Like,
oh no,
you don't like just wake up one morning and you're like, yep, today's the day. I'm going to strip this house from everything. It's a process.
Yeah.
And I think it's an ongoing process.
Well, I think that's the way to make it successful. I think there are people who have done that, who have just gone in and they're like, over the next month, I am going to completely dismantle this house. I'm going to get it exactly where I need it to be. I think what can happen in those situations is you don't have the gradual mindset shift that happens as you systematically go through things and your brain adjusts. It's just like that plant on top of the cabinet. If I had just done that through my whole house, I don't think I would have had the stamina to live in that environment for those couple of weeks and let my brain adjust and feel better about it. I think I would have been more likely to want to just like bring a bunch of stuff back in. I don't think I would have changed my habits like I needed to.
Agree. Takes what, 21 days to build a habit?
Yes.
Or 21 years, you know.
Give or take a year.
So here's the like real question.
Uh-oh, lay it on me.
Would you do it again?
100%. And I still am doing it. I still
Same.
find myself things creep in, birthdays, Christmas, just seasons changing.
School stuff.
Yes, constantly. I think it's another kind of like thing we can spill some tea on. It's not a one and done thing.
Absolutely not.
This is either a lifestyle or it's not. So, and you don't have to go, I have kind of been using this term a lot lately. I'm not looking for survival minimalism where I have like just the least amount of stuff. I'm looking for thriving minimalism. I
like that a lot.
I want the right balance of stuff that our family can thrive. And I was watching someone in the early days of like researching, my like market research on how to be a minimalist. And this woman had like 3 bodysuits, 1 pair of jeans, a toothbrush. She was living in this apartment. She had no furniture. I feel like she was like sleeping on a lawn chair.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it was probably not a lawn chair, but like it looked like that.
Yeah.
Like it was like
it was not a comfy bed.
And for a moment, I thought to myself, is this real? Is this actually how people live? And I know there are people who will kind of like live out of their backpack. And, especially in the tiny home movement, people were really gung-ho on trying to get the least amount of stuff that they absolutely possibly could have. And I can understand that. I can relate to it to a certain extent. I understand the freedom that comes from not having all of this stuff, but I also want to be able to wear more than one shirt.
True.
I want to not have to do laundry naked because I only own one outfit. But I think that kind of perception of minimalism, that you really have to be devoted to having absolutely nothing, is so far from what minimalism actually is.
I agree. I think a lot of people probably have the definition or visual that I had, like the very stark nothingness.
All the walls have to be white.
Yeah.
That's how you achieve that.
Right. And there's no stains, which also means there's no people and no life happening in that space, at least in my opinion.
I don't know how people have kids and have white walls like that.
You have white couches.
I know. Have you seen my couch?
Not up close and personal today.
It needs to be washed. They're slip covered. They wash up nice. But yes, I do have white couches, but they get so dirty.
But I think minimalism is different for everybody. Because would you walk into my house and think it's a minimalist house?
No, I wouldn't.
But do you think I'm a hoarder?
Oh, no. No, I think it feels, and I think that was what I probably didn't understand, is like you were saying, it feels cozy. But I would say too, it feels very welcoming. It's not,
but it's not overwhelming either.
No, and have you walked into someone's house and you're like, whoa.
Yes.
This is a lot of stuff. Even though it may be cleaned up and tidy, but you just walk in and you're like whoa. My eyes do not have a break. I really noticed, and I've even noticed in my own home, kind of looking around, thinking like, I need to take some stuff off the walls. Like, I used to love a good gallery wall.
Oh, me too.
Oh, I loved it. But I loved it so much, I would have one on like every single wall. Our old house, we had this really narrow, long hallway, and I had pictures on like every square inch of it. And I never even thought about how closed in it felt until we got ready to move. And I took all of those pictures down and we painted the walls. And all of a sudden it was like fresh and clean and open. And I don't know, it changed my perspective on a lot of those things.
I think that's fair. I think minimalism, it can start so small. Like that bathroom cabinet changed everything.
Yeah.
Because if I get stuff like that now, I'm like, thanks, but no thanks. Or, let me pass this on to somebody else who doesn't have allergies and sensitive skin.
Yeah.
Who might actually enjoy the smelly goods that I can't.
That's funny.
What?
Just like being a conduit for, I had never thought about that. That like, yes, we can take those things, but when we have a better perspective and it's easier for us to let go of those things, we actually can be a conduit to like bless other people in that way. Too. That like not that I don't know how much Bath and Body Works is blessing people. But, I don't know, maybe there's somebody out there with real dry skin that's like, I would really love some cucumber melon right now. And you just happen to have it. But yeah.
A couple of years ago, I probably had it for real.
You probably
Here's my
did.
stock.
Side note, Lumi deodorant, do you ever hear them? They have a cucumber mint scent that is so much like cucumber melon. It smells so much like it. It's my favorite. I love it. That's my favorite deodorant. This is not sponsored. Yet. Lumi, I'm just saying.
We're here for you.
We're here for you. We love your deodorant. At least I do. I think the other thing I would say about minimalism is I wish we could find a new word for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is so much misconception there that, people who are kind of on the outside, they're living this life. They're maybe not super discontent in their homes, but they have this nagging feeling that something is just not right. I think more often than not, it's tied back to the amount of stuff that we have in our homes.
There's so much research tied to how our environments impact us.
Yes.
And most people think about like the conditions somebody lives in, not the stuff that they live with.
Yeah.
And I think minimalism helps change that, your mental capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, not
really
to harp
is.
on that, but like.
No, it really is about thriving.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was in such a bad mindset before we came to that point. I was just doing what I thought everybody else was doing. I was living like I thought everyone else was living. And I think what it really came down to, and the truth about minimalism, is that it's just one way to look at what we're all being called to, which is stewardship.
Absolutely.
I think that was the shift for me, and what really sparked this lifestyle change is that God was calling me to be a good steward of the things in my life. And some of that stewardship was not about keeping the item and caring for it. It was actually passing it along so that I did not have to care for it any longer. That freed up my time, my money, my energy.
And like you said, maybe you
for other
bless
things.
Somebody else with
Oh,
it.
yeah. So many times I would have this item and I would think about things that I had found too. Like, especially when I was in college, I didn't have a whole lot of money, and we would go to a yard sale and I'd be so excited when I was like, oh, I needed a chair and here is a chair. Right. And just knowing that I was hanging on to this stuff for someday and someone else needed that item today. Right. Like my someday was someone's today. And how could I not be passing things along to someone who may actually need it? And that's not to say that everything in our home, this was not by any means like this huge noble pursuit where I was just like decluttering everything and like blessing people with my leftover college textbooks. It wasn't like, don't get it wrong. It wasn't this like, glory driven process that was just like so massively wonderful. There were a lot of things that there were some deep, dark feelings of regret and frustration and disappointment. But working through all of those things and really understanding that I can do so much more than I had been doing. And I feel like our home is more rightly aligned with the things that God is doing in my heart. And that feeling has just brought such a sense of freedom.
It's lovely. So, thanks for spilling the tea with us about minimalism. I think it is a real thing.
I think it is a real thing too.
Until next time.
Thanks for joining us for the Spilling the Tea podcast with Carrie and Mary Beth. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider sharing it with a friend? We'd love to keep the conversation going, so consider leaving a comment or a review. We'll see you again next week for Tea Time.